In this video, we will dive into the movie Dirty Angels. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide the reviews and personal reactions. Let's begin. Eva Green gets to flex her action movie muscle in Dirty Angel, the new action thriller from Dr. Martin Campbell. Joining Green in the mostly women driven cast are Ruby Rose, Maria Baklava, Ronali Shimon, Emily Bruni, and Lita Ijo, all of whom show to be plenty capable of pulling off what the movie needs and more. If only they had better material to work with. The problem is the ladies are handcuffed by a lackluster script that doesn't allow them to deliver beyond their characters' archetypes. These are a smattering of scenes that attempt to provide at least some emotional depth, but they fizzle out once the characters are forced back into their shallow and simplistic roles. The actresses do the best they can and manage to add a little personality to the proceedings, but everything from the action to the Sarut of talk feels like it's copying an out of date formula. Dirty Angels is set in 2021 during the United States' massive military withdrawal from Afghanistan. A band of ISS terrorists led by a ruthless and borderline cartoonish radical named Amir storm a girls' high school in Pakistan where they take several students hostage. Among them, the daughter of a high ranking Pakistani minister. Amir transports them back across the border to his hideout in Afghanistan where he demands $70 million and the release of a certain holy man being held prison. Green plays Jack, a hardened special ops soldier who is recruited by a CIA agent and old friend named Travis, played by Christopher Backus, to lead an international team on a rescue mission to save the girls. Jack has no interest until she hears the mission involved Amir, the madman who executed her team only a few months earlier. Hungry for revenge, Jake accepts the OP and takes her free to Pakistan. In order to get access to the border, Jake will be posing as a member of an international relief organization. To make it more believable, she is assigned a team of all women, each coming from different parts of the world and each with their own specialty. And of course, they all go by nicknames. There's a shooter, the weapon specialist geek, the tech expert, the bomb who handle explosive, Rocky the mechanic, and medic who is the medic. They are assisted by two local brothers who brings a little levity to the otherwise super serious movie. It takes a while for the story to kick into gear and even longer before we get into noteworthy action. Once it finally does, it becomes pretty obvious how things are going to play out. Along the way, screenwriters Alyssa Sullivan, Haggis, and Jonas McCord make an effort to show the volatility of the region. But deciphering who is between ISIS, the Taliban, and the Pakistani government is not always easy. The rescue mission's inevitable action-packed finish is a well-staged blowout that brings some welcome energy, but that doesn't make the slightest trick to get there any more thrilling. It doesn't provide the flimsy character with any more substance and it doesn't change the movie's overall lack of originality. Those are just some of the hardest that trip up Dirty Angels and that keep it from reaching the potential it teases us with. Ruby Rose to star in Dirty Angels. Ruby Rose has joined the cast of Dirty Angels. The 36-year-old star with feature alongside Eva Green in the action thriller directed by Martin Campbell, who has previously helmed Bond films GoldenEye and Casino Royale. The story is set against the backdrop of the US withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 and follows a group of female soldiers providing medical relief as they are sent to rescue kidnapped teenagers caught between ISIS and the Taliban. Elisa Savalman has penned the script from the film, and production is due to begin next month in Morocco and Millennium Media's Bayona studio in Greece. Noshu Diamond is proceeding for signature picture and will be joined by Rob Van Norden and Yaris Lander for Millennium Media. Ruby has previously starred in action films such as John Wick Chapter 2 and The Meg, and also played the lead role in the first season of the TV series Bad Women. The star stepped down for the part in 2020 after just one season and revealed that an allergy to her latex costume contributed to her decision. She said, "I did find out that I was allergic to latex, and unfortunately my mask is latex. I was like, I am a little itchy, and I was getting worse and worse because as you get more contact with it, I guess you get more reactions. I took off at the end and my whole face was just hives." Filming on Batwoman was cut short due to the coronavirus pandemic, and Ruby said she and the series bassist felt it was best for the show if they went their separate ways. She explained, well, all kind of thought about where we are at. We were discussing the show and we had a conversation. We did have a discussion and we sort of mutually agreed that probably what was best for the show at the time was they go in different direction and I go in a different direction. Interview with Dirty Angels director Martin Campbell. The film stars Eva Green, Maria Bakalova, Ruby Rose, and Jojo T. Gibbs, and will be available in select theater and on a VOD beginning Friday, December 13. Film Jab is a reader supporter, and the movie Dirty Angels, played by a very heavy cast of Eva Green. The movie review. Commando Eva Green, Queen of the Dirty Angels. Veteran director Martin Campbell knows how to shoot and cut action, so perhaps this January release will grab attention of this. Dirty Angels, Eva Green and Martin Campbell action thriller is no Casino Royale. When we think of our later in life directors still plug and away, we tend to focus on the heavyweights Martin scores as 82, George Miller and Steven Spielberg in their late 70s. Heck, Clint Eastwood made his latest movie in the early 90s, but maybe just as admirable in the lesser known journeyman who is still out there grinding despite not having the same market recognition as those guys. This brings us to 81 years old Martin Campbell, whose new action film Dirty Angel debuted both in theater and on VOD this weekend. If you know Campbell at all, it's likely for the two excellent James Bond films he directed, GoldenEye and Casino Royale, which were damned near perfect introduction to their respective Bonds. Percy Brosnan and Daniel Craig. He also helmed The Mask of Zorro and The Legend of Zorro, the well-liked adventure duology. Past that, his career is a true homage ranking from the early British comedies that given him his start to BBC TV work to his one shot at a superhero genre with Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern. Probably the less said about that one, the better. It's the filmography of a workman-like professional more than it is an author, but you are certainly not going to have made 18 movies without picking up some things along the way. I would not call Dirty Angels, which has Eva Green playing the leader of a special operations unit tasked with rescuing a group of kidnapped teenage girls in Afghanistan, a good movie. Percy, still it is a competently made one, clearly handed by a director who has been around the block. It looks good and everyone gives a performance that feels reasonably authentic. The problem that do exist, and to be clear there are some significant ones, seems to exist at the script level, which is interesting since Campbell also has his first story credit on Dirty Angels, who says you cannot try new things in your 80s. What is Dirty Angels about? In Dirty Angels, Green plays an army ranger named Jack who never left a man or woman behind in the field. no matter how previous the rescue attempt. Near the beginning, she is trying to get a military pallet court meteorite after he rescued from her foreign capture but was forced to bail before snatching up the rest of her team. Even her superior thinks she is being ridiculous. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, jihadis based out of Afghanistan have raided a Pakistani all-girl high school and kidnapped most of the students. Cruel fates await most of them, but five of the guards, all the daughters of various ambassadors and deputy ministers, are kept prison and held for ransom. Jack is put in charge of a rescue team made up mostly of female soldiers, discussed as a medical relief group that is tasked with going in and rescuing the guards by any means necessary. Jack is given the ridiculous alias of Jessica Rabbit, pronounced Rabbit, just one B. She reminds Fogg she's so nonsense that she doesn't even want to know everyone else's name, just their function, so the rest of the team goes by monikers like Shooter and the Bomb. Guess what their jobs are? The most notable actors portraying team members are Ruby Ross and Maria Bakalova. There are also a few men about, including the team's handler, a doctor who is not along for this world, and two Middle Eastern brothers who work as driver for the team and develop a warm relationship with Jack. For an action movie, Dirty Angel is a little light on action. Dirty Angels is largely structured like a heist movie with most of the screen time devoted to preparing for the big rescue. And that's really the problem numbers one here. For an action film, there's surprisingly little of it. The first significant action sequence doesn't occur until 50 minutes into the movie. By the time the angels, disguised in burqas, storm the bad guy's compound, there are only 15 minutes of the movie left. The rest of the runtime is filled with endless planning and some light intrigue. The team makes various alliances with local power players, some of whom will later be revealed to be double crosser with second motivations. The film also spends a lot of time trying to build out a world where sometimes you have to ally with the lesser of two evils, but the political observation the movie offers feel far too superficial and ill-fitting for the story at hand. This is a sub 2 hours women on a mission action movie, which is not the ideal platform to sneak in a detailed breakdown of the geopolitical history of the Middle East. None of it proves to be a very interesting, and plot specifics often feel like they are from a lesser episode of 24. Problem number 2 is that all the characters feel too unwritten, like they are sketch meant to be fleshed out in a later trip that never came. Beside their nicknames, jobs, I really could not tell you much about any of them. Ruby Rose is having a fling with the doctor, which I guess gives her an emotional beat to play when he goes bye bye. The others are around. I suppose the point of Dirty Angel is to highlight girl power by sending these badass women into a region where guards barely have rights at all. It's a noble endeavor, but I wish the film gave us heroes more worth cheering for. Green herself, who did chair best work with Campbell in Casino Royale 18 years ago, spends most of the movie in just two modes, grumpy or glum, and only springs to feral life during the big rescue in the final act. More of that throughout the movie might have really made a difference. Dirty Angels is too serious for its own good. Campbell has made a movie here that does get pretty horrific and doesn't shy away from the violence so prevalent in the region he is assigning. If you check this out, prepare to see teenage girls thrown off a roof to their graphic death and several brutal execution. There's also very little humor outside of a throwaway and extremely out of place Harry Potter joke. I did like Jack's relationship with the two brothers, especially Malik, who she bonds with during long car ride to the next mission checkpoint. But those moments are extremely brief. Dirty Angel is often too serious and too outwardly political for its own good. As we know, Campbell is a pro, so when the action does arrive, it's a well staged. There's a rack focus during the climatic battle that quickly shifts from a sniper phase to the end of her rifle. That's one of several nifty filmmaking choices. Still, sturdy old school action filmmaking can be as much of a curse as a blessing. Yeah, that here is reliably passable, but it also feels grossly outdated in a John Wick world. And in the same year, Monkey Man came out. When the action engineer movie feels too passed out and the non-action components fail to resonate or entrained in any reasonable way, you end up with a movie that feels in search for a reason for being. That's what we have got here with Dirty Angels. But don't worry, Martin Campbell will be back with his 19th film, a thriller starring Daisy Ridley titled Cleaner, sometime next year. For some filmmaker, regardless of age, there's always another movie in the chamber. So Dirty Angels is in the theaters. Dirty Angels 2024 movie ending. Directed by Martin Campbell and featuring Eva Green, the 2024 rescue thriller Dirty Angel had all the ingredients for greatness but fell short of its potential. Campbell, best known for helming the brilliant Casino Royale, one of the finest James Bond films ever made, makes the uneven action sequence in Dirty Angels even more perplexing. The story centers on Jake, a top-tier US Army soldier assigned the high-stakes mission of rescuing abducted girls in Pakistan. Despite her tarnished reputation for allegedly killing her commanding officer, Jack earns a second chance as leadership thanks to the steadfast support of Travis. However, her resolve is tested when a tragic shootout claims Travis' life. With her mission now more daunting than ever, the question lingers, can Jack save the girls and see the mission through? Let's dive it to find out. Jack's team is held hostage by ISIS leader Amir. Subsequently, the US military force attempts a rescue operation. During that time, the tragic demise of Jack's team leaves a lasting impact. Despite the rescue being left saving for her, she sees it as incomplete and feels betrayed by the officer's decision to abandon the rest of her team. This fuels her accusation of cowardice against the helicopter pilot. Her actions stem from a sense of moral responsibility. Jack believes her teammates' lives should have been prioritized equally, and the loss weighs heavily on her consequences. Feeling the complaint become her way of seeking justice for them. Even years later, her attempts to hold the officers accountable risk exposing her own past, including the controversial murder of her commanding officer. Her determination to pursue suggests on internal conflicts where loyalty and personal redemption clash, shaping her unwavering stance. What is Jack's mission in Pakistan? Jack's mission in Pakistan revolves around rescuing abducted students from an international high school triggered by ISIS. Among the captives is Badia Turani, daughter of the Minister of Education, who has drawn arms for advocating women's rights. The abduction, marked by the brutal killing for Badia's friends, is a calculated move by Amir to send a message against progressive values. The situation escalates because many of the abducted girls are children of influential political figures, including Americans. Recognizing the stakes, Travis, Jack's superior officer, assigned her to the rescue operation under the alias Jessica Rabbit. Jake assumes command of a skilled team including bomb shooter Rocky, Keek, and Jane, with Travis and Dr. Mike joining the mission, distinguished as medical relief workers. Travis plans the rescue with precision, leveraging the medical relief team cover to infiltrate the area. Jack's non-instant leadership ensures her focus remains on the mission rather than personal connection with her crew. The operation is not just about rescuing the girls but also about countering Ahmed's agenda and the ideological threat he possesses. Jack's mission reflects the high stakes of balancing tactical efficiency with the broader political and moral implications of the rescue. The team, while en route to rescue Badia and the other abducted guards, faces logistical setbacks with their planned weapons stash becomes inaccessible. Jack scores vital information on the guard's location through Taliban contact, but the team must raid a local military warehouse for weapons. Through the raid succeeds, it alerts ISIS to their presence and results in Mike's death. Jack refuses to leave Mike's body behind, fearing its discovery would reveal the Americans' involvement. While retrieving the body, Travis is finally shot. This sacrifice makes him a casualty of Jake's prioritization of sorcery over immediate mission objectives. The team's plan fails apart when Amir, tripped off by the raid, relocates the guards to another location. Jack's action sparks blame from the team, who hold her responsible for Travis' death. Her justification, emphasizing the need to prevent the mission's expose, divides opinion by prioritizing the cover-up over immediate progress. Jax inadvertently retails their rescue efforts and sacrifice both Mike and Travis. Travis' death underlines the irredeemable cost of split-second decision in high-stakes operation, adding to the growing tensions around Jack's leadership. Amir plans is a calculated mixture of revenge, power, and terror designed to target both his victim and their families. While he pretends to negotiate a ransom for the ministerial doubters, he has no intention of releasing them. His action reveals a more sinister motive, using the guards as tool to further his ideological and personal vendettas. Amir manipulates Hal as American student into believing she will be freed if she delivers an envelope to the Taliban police station. However, the envelope contains a bomb which he detonates after her task is complete. This act of deception and violence not only eliminates his perceived enemies but also sends a chilling message of his capabilities. For Badia, Amir plans forced marriage as a symbolic and personal act of vengeance. By marrying her and giving her classmate to his soldiers, he aims to punish their progressive families and strip them of their agency. He rationalizes this by claiming he wants strong children but in reality seeks to humiliate and dominate his enemies. Amir Crawley offers Badia a false choice, marry him or face death with her friends enslaved. This tactics underscores his intent to break her spirit and assert control. Amir's desire for Sheikh al-Shamal's release further reveals at thirst for revenge. He seeks to avenge his parents' death, orchestrated by the Sheikh, by ultimately killing him. Amir's plans are not just acts of terror but deeply personal strategies of vengeance, reflecting his distorted sense of justice. The ending of the Dirty Angels. Despite setbacks, including her Taliban contact being a mole for Amir, Jack demonstrates remarkable resourcefulness. She outsmarts both the traitor and Amir by planting a tracker in a bag of counterfeit money and leaving it with the sheikh, whom Amir wanted for personal revenge. Amir doesn't realize it's a trap and falls for it, helping Jack and her team find his secret hideout. Using clever disguises by wearing Prakash, Jack and her team infiltrates the base undetected. This detective enables them to plant traps and locate the prisoners, including Badia, without rousing suspicion. However, the plan unravels when Amir realizes the base is compromised, leading to an intense battle between the soldiers and his guards. In the chaos, Jack prioritizes getting the hostage out safely, even as sacrifices are made by some team members. Badia, whose forced marriage to Amir is interrupted by the attack, reunites with her classmates. The mission reaches its climax when Jack confronts Amir in a brutal one-by-one fight, ultimately killing him by slitting his throat. As rescue choppers arrive to evacuate the hostage and soldiers, Jack makes a surprising decision. Instead of leaving with the other, she opts to ride with Malik in a truck, signaling her choice not to return to the US immediately. This decision likely inflict Jack's unresolved mission against groups like Amir, showing her determination to continue the fight against similar threat. Her actions underline both her commitment to justice and the personal toll the mission has taken on her. Jack calls Amir the demon because of his unparalleled cruelty and manipulation. Amir forced Jake and her squad into morally devastating choices, knowing they will carry the psychological scars forever. His demand that the squad stone their commanding officers to death exemplifies his sadistic need to break their spirits. When they refuse, he murders an innocent woman and child, making it clear that defiance only brings greater suffering. Faced with an impossible choice, Jake takes the burden upon himself to spare her scarred further trauma. Amir's ability to exploit such moments of desperation makes him monstrous in Jake's eyes. He not only orchestrates physical violence but also wields emotional and psychological torment as weapons, leaving his victim haunted by guilt and regret. By trying to subject Jake to the same fate as her commanding officer, Amir comments his image as a relentless force of evil. For Jake, he embodies a demon, a figure who thrives on other suffering and destruction. Dirty Angels 2024 movie ending explained and summary. That was a successful rescue plan. Directed by Martin Campbell, the other work is GoldenEye and Casino Royale. Dirty Angel is an action thriller starring Eva Green, Ruby Rose, and Maria Bakalova. Jack, a army ranger, was brought on board to carry out a rescue operation in Afghanistan in 2021, disguised as a member of a medical relief team along with other female American soldiers. A group of school students, all daughters of American ambassadors and foreign ministries, were abducted from a school in Pakistan. The kidnappers, headed by ISIS leader Amber, demanded $10 million for each student as well as the release of Sheikh al Shimali. While most of the students were American, the former Afghan Minister of Education's daughter, Badia Drani, was also among these abducted. Badia's mother was convinced that her daughter would be the first to be beheaded and the ISIS would use her to force the Americans to come up with a way to pay for the release of their daughters. Jack and her team managed to enter Afghanistan disguised as a medical relief team, but will they manage to rescue the guards? Let's find out. How did Jack plan on conducting the rescue operation? Soon after landing in Pakistan, Jack contracted her Taliban informant to locate where the American guards were being held. Even though her contacts were reluctant to help, her hatred towards ISIS convinced her to dig deep. Meanwhile, Amir asked one of the American guards he had abducted to hand over a letter to the Taliban police, after which she would be allowed to return home. The guard assumes he was being nervous and agreed to it. As soon as he handed over the letter to the police, a bomb went off, killing her and the policeman at the station. It was deduced that the attack had been planned by ISIS. The rescue mission had to be executed immediately given the danger the young girls were in. After meeting with her contact upon entering Afghanistan, Jack informed her team that the girls are being held at an abandoned tobacco factory. Even though their leader, Travis, was hesitant, Jack confirmed that her informant had gathered the details from a midwife who had been to the factory. Travis had complete faith in Jack, and even though her team wondered if the source were trustworthy, he decided they must follow Jack's plan. By the time they reached the factory, the guards were nowhere to be found. A shootout between the Taliban and Jake and her team ensued immediately after they broke into the factory. Travis and the doctor assistants the team were shot during the conflicts, even though their lives could be jeopardized. Jax patronized retrieving the doctor's body over running away from the scene. Her teammates assumed it was a desperate attempt to make up for her past mistake. The rumor was she had killed her team leader before, but that was not the whole truth. Her team leader was about to be stoned to death, and she did what he expected her to, kill him in her first attempt. The guilt consumes her to the extent that she was ready to jeopardize her life if it meant keeping her team safe. Knowing how the deceased were treated, Jack believed the least they could do was to bring the bodies with them. ISIS was blamed for the attack on the Taliban, and when Jack and her team made it to their Taliban contact, Bashir's house, Durrani showed up. She had managed to make it to Afghanistan, and she brought along with her a bag full of counterfeit money. She was confident that Amir would not be able to tell that the notes were fake at first glance, and it would buy Jack and her team enough time to conduct the rescue operation. Jack's Taliban contact also met them at Bashir House and told them that after the attack the previous nights, Amir had decided to move the guards to a different location. She believed that Jack's best bet was to hijack the Taliban van that would be moving Sheikh al Shumali to a high security prison. Jack and her team decided to abduct the Sheikh and trade him along with the counterfeit money they had. Who betrayed Jack and her team? Jack and her team attacked the police van when Sheikh al Shumali was being transferred. In the process, one of the team members, Rocky, ended up getting injured. Unexpectedly, a bus was coming from the other side, and to protect the civilians, Rocky risked their life. Their leg got crushed under the bus and they became immobile, making them an easy target for the Taliban. Even though Jack tried her best to help them, she did not have enough time. She advised Rocky to tell Taliban that they were an American soldier because only then they would be released and allowed to return home. In 2021, the US had begun evacuating from Afghanistan, but giving away their identity meant their team's rescue mission would be interrupted, and Rocky was not ready to take chances. When Rocky was captured by the Taliban, they lied about being an ISIS soldier. To make an example of Rocky, the Taliban slit their throat right in front of a camera. While their plan was a success, Rocky's horrific death was the price they had to pay for it. Jax walked into the adjacent room where they had held Sheikh al Shimali captive. She pointed her gun at him, but when she did not accept to find was her Taliban contact using a cell phone at their secret location. Jack attempted to choke her informant and bashed her head with her gun. She dropped to the ground unconscious, and Jack checked her phone. She realized that her informant had betrayed her and she had been constantly providing information to the ISIS kidnappers. This explained why their first rescue attempt had failed, and Jack was confident that ISIS would raid their current location to get the Sheikh. By the time the ISIS soldiers arrived, Jack and her team had managed to hide away, and they secretly watched the men in action. Amir and his men took the bag of cash and the Sheikh with them. The informant apologized to Amir for failing to hand over the rescue team, and she accompanied Amir to his camp. Jack had placed a phone in the bag of cash and used it to track Amir's location. Why did Amir demand Sheikh al Shimali's relief? Sheikh al Shimali assumes that Amir was one of his dedicated disciples or well wishers. He was grateful to the leader, but he wondered why Amir went out of his way to ensure his safe return. On their way to his camp, Amir explained that the Sheikh had married his parents and that was why he was entirely grateful to him. The Sheikh was surprised to see how well Amir has built his den, from surveillance cameras all around to retained men at his disposal. Amir seems very clear about his code, but the Sheikh could not shrug off the feeling of unfamiliarity. He did not recognize Amir and he wanted to know who his parents were to understand the relationship he shared with them. The Sheikh did not seem to know his parents, but he chose not to pray, since Amir had stated that they had passed away. The leader also added that he had chosen a bride he wanted to marry, the daughter of the former Afghanistan minister, and he wanted the Sheikh to officiate their wedding. The Sheikh readily agreed to the prostitutions and the bride was dressed for the occasion. Badia Durrani did not have a choice, considering Amir had suggested that she could neither marry him and ensure that her friends were also married to ISIS soldiers, so they would be traded in the slave market. When the Sheikh started to read from the Holy Scriptures, Amir prodded him, asking him to simply announce them as man and wife without getting into the details of the text. As soon as the Sheikh announced they were officially married, Amir pulled his out sword and he started. His father was a religious man, and yet the Sheikh has denounced him and his wife. He was the reason why his parents were executed by the Taliban. From then on, he had sworn that he would kill the Sheikh with his own sword. With one swift stroke, Amir slit the throat of the spiritual leader. Was the rescue plan a success? While Amir was busy avenging his parents, Jake and her team had entered his den distinguished in burqas. Jack had figured out the floor where the guards were held hostage, and gradually her team started to hide explosive devices all around the den. The security men started to suspect the women working there. Two of the team members were with the abducted guards. They had killed the guard, and Jack waited for the perfect opportunity to safely help the guards find their way out of the den. All women working at Amir's facility were asked to line up and reveal their faces. Medic Ruby Ross had no choice but to give herself away, but she did not care anymore because she had already planted a bomb at the spot. During Dirty Angels ending, the explosion created a distraction, and Jack entrusted Badia to lead her friends down the escape path. The guards managed to make it to the van, and in the end, Jack got into a physical fight with Amir. She used his sword to slit his throat, and he bled to death. Jack had no choice but to leave one of her teammates, Geek, behind. It was almost impossible to rescue her, and she had advised Jake to patronize saving the guards. Geek had signed up for the job knowing the risk involved, and she was willing to sacrifice her life for the greater good. Jack had dropped the coordinate for the location with the American Air Evacuation team, and they arrived in a helicopter to safely take the guards home. Jack chose to stay behind because she believed she will had a lot to do in Afghanistan. She was at a stage in life where she had lost too much, and she could not imagine going back to a normal life. Situating Dirty Angels in Afghanistan was to highlight the glaring contexts of belief and also to showcase the courage that it took for a group of skilled women and queer fighters to enter a space that was intolerant of them and safely bring the abducted young girls home. Dirty Angels fires off violent action that's predictable but still powerful. Somewhere along the way between the filming of Dirty Angels in late 2022, early 2023, and this week's release date, they might have considered changing that title. It sounds like it could be a sequel to that Dirty Angels with Filthy Souls movie that plays on the TV in Home Alone, or perhaps the Dixian story of a group of plucky orphans who team up on a big adventure circa 1840. They might be filthy and rough around the edges, but they are dirty angels. What we are actually getting is a violent and punishingly effective thriller about an all female commando unit posing as member of a relief organization in a daring mission to rescue a group of teenage girls who have been taken hostage by terrorists in Afghanistan. This is a film that doesn't even try to sidestep the glitches of the genre. In fact, it runs towards familiar tropes and embraces them with vigor. What elevates Dirty Angels to the status of a solid size of R-rated action entertainment is the stellar cast led by Eva Green and the sure-handed direction from 80 years old veteran Martin Campbell, director of the Bond films GoldenEye and Casino Royale, which co-starred Eva Green as Vesper Lands. The film Dirty Angels 2024 Women on a Mission and this action thriller Dirty Angel, a fictional story about a group of soldiers who set out to rescue kidnapped schoolgirls in Afghanistan held hostage by the members of the Islamic State or ISIS, suffers from the discord between the real life conflicts that make up its setting and the cartoonish character who propel its plot. It opens by introducing its villain Amir, a smirking ISIS member who will soon lead the capture of the schoolgirls he kills indiscriminately, but in case that is not enough to telegraph his terror, an ominous score overlays his every move. Who could stop him but our hero Jack? Eva Green grunting her lines, she is Steely Marine who was once held captive by ISIS and joined the female-led recovery mission to avenge her former unit. The director Martin Campbell uses his gender pre-degree to assemble a series of bloody shoutouts that build the women's squad goals morale while establishing their toughness. They even elect to ditch names to Girly Shorely in favor of functions, mechanic, the bomb, shooter, and geek. But while the movie flouts traditional gender roles, it easily plays into stereotypes about race and religion. The savers speak English and the terrorists speak Pashto. In one sequence, the commandos slip into enemy territory by donning niqabs as disguises. The title presumably are gestures at the rescue team being female but ruthless is at least accurate for much of her time on screen. Green is covered in grime. Dirty Angel review flawed, but Eva Green proves herself as an action star. Blood, violence, and the suspense all collide in director Martin Campbell's new action thriller Dirty Angels, but the film is not all that blessed when it comes to character development and the kinds of depth audience appreciate when watching a pose of franchise folk trying to save the day. Machine guns go off, the body count mounts over, emotions are put to the test as the lives of young hostages hang on the edge. It's a shame we don't know more about any of these people, but we will know just enough, and that's what the filmmaker may be banking on. Dirty Angel was written by Alyssa Sullivan Haggis and Jonas McCord. Martin, reportedly a fan of mission movies from the 1960s like The Guns of Navarone and The Dirty Dozen, must have been intrigued by the premises here, which finds a group of schoolgirls taken hostage in Afghanistan. Their fate lies in the smarts of an American soldier named Jack, played by Eva Green, who worked by the Campbell on the stellar James Bond film Casino Royale. Jack eventually joins all-women commandos unit to liberate the hostage with a plan to gain the trust of the terrorist by posing as member of a relief organization. This doesn't go too well as you can imagine another action thriller is born. But Campbell, a stellar director behind such standout action thriller like GoldenEye, The Mask of Zorro, Vertical Limit, Beyond Borders, Age of Darkness, and The Portigue cannot save the script, which relies more on violent scenarios and a lengthy build up to the film's climactic rescue attempt. In between, we are given brief glimpses into the group of fiercely dedicated women, but nothing more. Green's Jake managed to evoke intrigue and concern as the character is carrying around a past trauma, which makes for a great backstory. Otherwise, as gripping as the film can be at times, it misses its greatest potential to be something grand. Not enough chaotic bullet in Dirty Angels. Dirty Angels also stars Maria Bakalova, Ruby Rose, Jojo T. Gibbs, Christopher Bucks, and Riza Brogerty. The film opens with a tragedy Evergreen's face forces and will remain impacted by. You see Siege, a tough as nails army ranger who prides herself on leaving nobody behind in the field regardless of danger. After a botched mission that left her team dead, Jack's nervous and her reputation take a beating. This could be the end of her career. But wait, back into the Middle East, jihadis in Afghanistan bombarded a Pakistani all girls school and kidnapped the students here. Eventually, they release all but five of those girls who are daughters of ambassadors and other government officials. Their ransoms and high the swings back into Jack's court because, as fate and the script would have it, she is suddenly placed in summon of a rescue team comprised of mostly four female soldiers. It takes a while for all this to fall into place, with an immediate alliance forming with one of the comrades, Christopher Buckets Davis, who attempts to convince the rebels that this ragtag team are medics on hand providing relief. This makes for a great promise and the setup, the story, Jack's angsty backstory, and the actual setting allow the audience to go, okay, I'll buy it. It's just that the film, and this is mostly due to the writing, another surprise because the story also came from Campbell, is often one note to often skimping the surface. With a better executed tale, this would have been if we know more about Jack other than her main tragedy. Or the other women in the team, this would have given the audience a deeper investment in caring more about the characters and how things play out. Dirty Angels comparing premise when she ever yet fails to fully deliver. That said, there is something to appreciate about the characters we are given of the mix. Maria Baklova's character, dubbed the Bomb, is a most intriguing a bomb expert. The character's quirky edges outshine some of the others in the scene. As for Green, it's a joy to watch her in what's been built as her first action thriller. And while the script only allows her character so much depth, Green captures Dick Torment to winning ends. We realize that for her the new mission is all the more important because if successful, it could somehow ease the pain of what come before. Other characters, particularly the terrorist, follow traditional antagonist tropes, but there's enough for a spark there to make things compelling. Overshadowing all this, and sometimes in a good way, is Dr. Martin Campbell's savvy way of dropping us into a place. From helicopter tracks to dusty escalates, who terror is the taking place, those scenes too came across as believable, and you wonder if spread across, say, 8 episodes of a streaming data Campbell et al. Could have been more successful. Shows like Homeland, Jack Ryan, SEAL Team 6, and the Terminal List, for instance, managed to create three-dimensional characters with great backstories. One could argue that Campbell opted for more action sequences, but even the most memorable of those are reserved for the film's final 20 minutes. There are a few unique spins offered during the back and forth between the kidnappers, but this ping pong match feels drawn out, and the film leans too heavily into any and all kinds of action thriller tropes. Although there's a bit of joy in all that at times. That's one of the main flaws of Dirty Angels. It takes a bit too much time to get where it's going. All this could have been rectified if there was a greater sense of character's development leading up to a climactic sense. What we are left with is a lot of reaction rather than revelation. Still, fans of military action dramas should not be too disappointed, and the fact that this film features a powerful female cast thrust into dangerous situations should spark more than a modest sense of intrigue. We don't often find tales quite as ambitious as this one is tone and its dedication to a sense of place. Look for Evergreen to surprise you along the way too. The actress proves herself to be a powerful action hero star. Let's just have more action in star. Dirty Angel hits theater and is available on VOD December 13. Dirty Angels, Germany, Martin Campbell, director. Dirty Angels, a by the number hostage thriller set in Afghanistan, is blunt, workman line fashion. The movie takes place in the present day but feels like it could have came out in the mid 20s, and its one-dimensional character and cultural oversimplification within its Middle Eastern setting. It's an extremely violent film with people getting shot in the head or stabbed in the neck is girly nonsense way. And the dialogue in the script from Alyssa Swalian Hedges and the Jack McCord is chock full of planned bravado, with the members of an all-women commando team bickering nearly constantly when they bother to address each other at all. Their leader is Eva Green, doing an iffy American accent as Jack, a tough as nails soldier with a troubled past. Dirty Angel reunited Green with the director of 2006 Casino Royale, the first film in which Daniel Craig played James Bond, and one that afforded her far more charisma and complexity. Here she is doing a version of the classic Jodie Foster persona with her blunt cut bob, steely stare, and husky understated delivery. The very sweater in there, but the material is less assured. When ISIS kidnaps a group of teenage girls from an international high school in Pakistan, Jack is called in to lead a rag team of military badasses to rescue them. They take their names from the jobs they do. Geek is the tech expert, the bomb, endless explosive shooter is well, she's the shooter, and so on. Travis is the longtime colleague who recruit Jack for the mission, while Malik and Abbas are the local brothers who provide wild driving skills and Rocky forced humor. Along those lines, the tone is all over the place here for intense chases and shout-outs to Muku and Sal exchange to out of nowhere pop culture reference meet as an efficient method of harmonizing these people. Ruby Rose as a medic named Medic has a barely there romance with a doctor named Dr. Mike, which serves no narrative purpose whatsoever. Meanwhile, laying in wait and hoping for a $10 million ransom from the Afghanistan government is Amir, the cartouchingly evil Taliban leader who masterminded the kidnapping. They are so little to him that he doesn't even get a chance to the formidable. So when he abruptly kills someone who has crossed for displeased him, it's not even shocking. This is just who he is. Having said that, there's a massive amount of graphic code here, from paralong shoutouts to exploding Hamleys. If you're looking for the kind of mindless throwback violence Dirty Angel delivers, if only it were not such a bore. In theory, the film could have made a significant statement with the fact that its team of highly trained, fearless women must go undercover figuratively and literally, as they wear burqas at times to save other women. Unfortunately, they are written with the generic toughness of male mercenaries from 1990s action movie. So when they are putting themselves in danger to save these girls from the clutches of fundamentalist patriarchal oppression, it's hard to feel the emotional theft of that amid the din of explosion and automatic weapons fire, particularly at a time when women's rights are in jeopardy there. In the United States and around the world, Dirty Angel represents a blown opportunity to say something meaningful amid the meme. Dirty Angels 2024 is in the theaters. Eva Green wants revenge. So, I have always found Dirty Angels director Martin Campbell to be a fascinating filmmaker. On the one hand, he has given us the best James Bond films of the last few decades, and memorable actioner like The Mask of Zorro or Vertical Limit. But on the other hand, he has also been responsible for overwhelming experience such as the infamous Green Lantern or the Age of Darkness movies with Mel Gibson. I do believe he is extremely talented, and I have been a fan of his work for quite a while now, but there's no denying that this filmography is rather spotty. This is why I approach Dirty Angel with some trepidation. Would it be something more akin to his better efforts, or would it end up being an interesting filler? Well, the end result is somewhere in the middle. This film is full of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. When it works and manages to show that Campbell is still capable of directing the hell out of an action scene, but when it doesn't, it feels like what it is, a B-grade action thriller that, despite featuring an interesting and talented cast, is being given an extremely limited theatrical run for a reason. I was entertained by Dirty Angels but also a tad frustrated by its wasted potential. As the movie starts, we see the American soldier Jack Evergreen of Paxuma is about to be stoned to death by a group of terrorists in the Middle East. She eventually gets saved but not without some casualties, including most of the team that accompanied her to her latest mission. Some months later, she is recruited by Travis for a new mission that will allow her to take revenge on the person who killed her men, Taliban leader Afshin. It turns out he has kidnapped a bunch of girls from a school in Pakistan and is asking for millions of dollars as a ransom from the American government. Clearly, the Americans are not willing to pay the money even if the daughter of an ex-Pakistani prime minister is amongst the kidnapped girls. Thus, Jake is sent to Pakistan to work alongside a team of mostly female soldiers to rescue the kids. Maria Baklova plays an explosive expert, Ruby Rose is the team's medic, Rona Lee Shimon is a shooter, and Jojo T. Gibbs is in charge of tech. Additionally, Jack reunites with Travis in Pakistan and also ends up working with an actual doctor who has been living in the country for a while, Mike. With their help and the support of local drivers Abbas and Malik, she will try her best to fulfill the mission even if she has to deal with a civil war between the Taliban and ISIS. Dirty Angels takes a very Americanistic sense on the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East. Most of the film protagonists are American, even if not all the actors portraying them are. And the Middle Eastern's character, both villain and allies, are pretty stereotypical. So if you are expecting something a tad more complex, you will not get it here. Most people don't watch an actioner like this for its announced politics thought. What Dirty Angels does is to use the context in which it takes place to develop a narrative about redemption and regret, and of course to show us a couple of sleep explosions and many a shout out. And in that sense, Dirty Angel is competent enough. Action wise, Campbell managed to convey tension through fluid camera work, impressive stunts, and a palpable sense of morality for his main characters. Jack might be protected by plot armor, but the rest of our team are vulnerable enough, so much so that Campbell managed to extract quite a bit of suspense out of generic shout out and fisticuffs. Where the film fails, it is the VFX department. There's nothing horrible, especially if the viewer is aware that they are not watching a big budget blockbuster. But Dirty Angels does feature unconvincing digital fireballs, dreadful digital blood, and a shot of a CGI helicopter that would look at home in a video game. Thankfully, they are not bad enough to be completely distracting. What sets Dirty Angel apart from any old director to streaming action picture is the character of Jack. Of course, the film has the advantage of having Evergreen portraying her, but the script, credited to four writers including Campbell, also does a good job of developing her as a credible human being. She could have ended up being a archetypical strong woman, but both the script and Green turned her into someone looking for redemption and a purposeful life. Jax lives with the guilt of having abandoned her team to be killed and thus refuses to let anyone die during her new mission. Her character arc is interesting enough, and the way Jack resigns her humanity as the story advances turns her into someone worth spotting. The secondary characters are not as interesting. more of them lack personality and are ineffable only because some of them are portrayed by recognized stars like Maria Pilkova or Ruby Rose. The expectations are Aziz Abbas and Rose Malik. These expectations are only allies Jake team have in Pakistan. Dirty Angels, the secondary character, are not as interesting. More of them lack personality and are ineffable only because some of them are portrayed by recognizable stars like Maria Baklova or Ruby Rose. The expression are Aziz Captis Abbas and Reza Malik. They are the only allies Jack streams have in Pakistan, and instead of being retreated are disposable red shirts. They are portrayed as believable humans with their own wants and needs and funny quirks. Abbas is a terrible driver and a great singer, for example, and Malik loves his big brother very much. It's more extraordinary character work to be exact, but it helps to make most of the interactions between the drivers and Jack feel less clutches. Dirty Angel is a complete action thriller directed by filmmaker incapable of making anything less than fine. Yes, VFX quality is all over the place, and the film's politics are either simplified or pretty stereotypical and American trick. But if one decides to watch Dirty Angel without expecting anything extraordinary, it is possible to have fun with it. Most action scenes are tense, there's not one bad performance to be found. Eva Green is a great as usual, and Jack's character arc is what makes the movie its age. If you are in the mood for watching a suspenseful actioner that doesn't demand too much from the viewer, you could do much worse than Martin Campbell Dirty Angels. A battle-hardened and vengeful soldier goes back to Pakistan to rescue a group of kidnapped schoolgirls from a violent member of the Taliban. Dirty Angels, Eva Green, and Markia Belkova embark on a harrowing mission in Dirty Angels. A group of badass women are kicking butt and taking names in Collider's exclusive first look at the trailer and poster for Dirty Angels. Set to arrive in cinema on December 13, no Buona Film Studio and Lionsgate Less's high-octane thriller is filled to be brim with pulse-pounding action sequence and a dramatic storyline about a group of female soldiers who put their anything on the line to protect a group of innocent kids. Leading the charge is a shell sheet that includes Eva Green, Miss Peregrine Home for Personal Children, Maria Baklova, Buddies, 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 and Ruby Rose, Orange in the New Black. Their works. The year is 2021, and the United States has just made the decision to remove itself from Afghanistan. Following a fictional team of female soldiers, Dirty Angel sees a dedicated tribe but themselves back in harm's way to rescue a handful of teens who have found themselves trapped between ISIS and the Taliban. Dressed as medic, the women infiltrate the incredibly dangerous location and do what they can to ensure that the kids make it home safely. The feature is the latest to hail from filmmaker Martin Campbell with a script from Elisa Sloven with a natural knack for standing behind the helm of Action Center feature. Campbell has previously lent his vision to other titles including Memory, The Prodigy, Green Lantern, The Mask of Zorro, and both James Bond films GoldenEye and Casino Royale. The latter of which saw the director pair with Dirty Angel star Green, filling out the ensemble cast in a lineup that include Reza Brojardi, Rona Lee Shimon, Jojo T. Gibbs, Emily Gromy, Christopher Backus, Lodetta Ito, Zohar Rahman, and Edmund Kingsley. The studio behind Dirty Angel. With Lionsgate distributing Dirty Angels hails from Millennium Media's Nobana Film Studios. The company has produced a handful of recognizable talent in recent years, including Hellboy, The Crocked Man, The Bricklayer, Expendable 4, Cobweb, Hitman's Wife Bodyguard, Angel Has Fallen, and Rambo Last Blood. Along with the war themed thriller, other movies coming out from Noboyana Film Studio including David Sandberg's stud Kung Fury 2 and MJ Bossett's highly anticipated sword and social flick Red Sonja. You can check out the exclusive first look at trailer of the Dirty Angels and then you can watch the movie in the theaters. So the summary of Dirty Angels is the movie and everything we know about the movie is here. So what's the story about? When a group of schoolgirls is taken hostage in Afghanistan, an American soldier named Jack, played by Eva Green, joins an all-women commando unit to liberate them. The plane gained the trust of the terrorists by posing as member of the relief organization, but double crosses, tragedies, and the hostage attack past complicate their rescue in the do or die mission. Who star in Dirty Angel cast list is Eva Green, Ruby Rose, Maria Bakalova, Jojo T. Gibbs, Rona Lee Shimon. The movie director and screenwriter is Elisa Silverman. And Dirty Angel release date, when was the film released? So Dirty Angel was a limited release in 2024 on Friday 13, 2024. There was 16 other movies released on the same date including The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim, Kraven the Hunter, and Carry On. As a limited release, Dirty Angel will be only shown in select movie theater across major markets. So the next is Dirty Angels 2024 ending explain how does Jack save the girls. The action thriller film Dirty Angels charts a gravitating path to glory as it follows a tenacious team's undertaking of a dangerous rescue mission. Jack, a US Marine, loses her squad to a dreadful ISIS leader Amir following a harrowing capture. Years after her successful escape, she finds the opportunity to settle scores and save numerous lives after Amir attack on All Girls International School in Pakistan and take various students hostage. Thus, the soldiers teams with a team of skilled fighters who plan to infiltrate the organization's lair under the cover of providing medical relief. Naturally, complications arise as Jake and her team progresses with the mission. Still, with numerous young lives on the line, the soldier refuses to give up and improvise on the ground. As the narrative operates within high stakes with plenty of scope for everything to go wrong, the audience will inevitably become engrossed in the fate of Jack's mission. Dirty Angels plot synopsis. In 2021, Jake and her squad end up captive of the ISIS leader Amir. However, before he can execute Jake publicly, the American forces manage to intervene with rescue choppers. Nonetheless, in the gunfight that follows, they are only able to save the Marine from the situation, leaving the rest of her team to their demise. Despite her intents otherwise, years later, once Jack is back on duty, she attempts to charge the officer who flew the helicopter with cowardice for leaving her fellow Marine behind. Her stance remains controversial, even unsuspected by her superior officer, who points out that doing so would only air out her own past actions, including the murder of her commanding officers. Nonetheless, Jake remains firm in her decisions. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, an international school for girls finds itself under attack from ISIS, as numerous armed men charge into the school and oral young girls into trucks. Badia Durrani, the daughter of the Minister of Education, tries to help her friends hide and escape. Nevertheless, Amir's men catch up to them. As it turns out, Amir has a particular bone to pick with Badia and her parents for their progressive views on women's rights. Therefore, to punish the young girl, he kills her friends by throwing them off the school's rooftop before abducting Badia with her classmates. News travels of the abduction of the students, many of whom are American kids of ministers and other political figures. As a result, Jack Franz and Superior Officer Travis put her on the rescue mission for those kids. Thus, the Marine travels under the fake name Jessica Rabbit. Upon arrival, she meets up with her team. However, given her no nonsense attitude, she has no names and only functions. Therefore, she familiarizes herself with her crew, some of whom include Bomb, Shooter, Rocky, Geek, and Jane, the medic. Travis and the team's Dr. Mike will also be accompanying the group as they go forward under the disguise of a medical relief team. However, before Travis arrives, Jack slips out to tend to personal matter and attempts to contact an associate. Afterward, she and Travis meet up with Camila Troni, Bardia's mother. Apparently, Amir has asked for ransom for each of the minister's daughter in millions of dollars, along with the release of prisoner Sheikh al-Shimali. Even though the authorities have not gone to ransom roads yet, Camila wants Jake and her team to pay off Badia's ransom and save her in a last-ditch attempt if their plan ends up going south. She also gets them in contact with Bashir, an officer at the border who will help them in their travel toward Amir's camps. Two local brothers, Abbas and Malik, also join the team, fulfilling the role of truck drivers. As the group arrives closer to their destination, complications arrive. As it turns out, the weapon trash Stavis was relying on is no longer accessible. On the other hand, Jack has some success with her contact, a Taliban member who owes the Marine her life. Through her, she managed to get the exact location of Badi and the other guards. As for the weapons issue, the team comes up with a plan to raid a local military warehouse. Although the mission is successful, it leads to Mike and Travis' death. Moreover, their raid tips off Amir, who relegate the guards to another location, thus their plan is essentially rendered useless. Dirty at this ending, why does Amir kidnap Badia and her classmate? Amir action remains the driving force behind the action premise, setting up the central mission for Jack and her team to undertake. However, his motive tend to be a little more ambiguous. Amir's attack on Badia school and the subsequent death of various young students is a direct result of his hateful belief against women's education. For the same reason, he has targeted the international school in Pakistan to capture the numerous daughters of ministers and American officials to hurt the people he holds his grudge against directly. However, there's actually another plan at play. While the fates of the majority of Amir's victims are unknown, with only allusions to the fact that he is keeping the young girls as slaves for his soldiers, he seems to have set plans for the daughters of the ministries. He uses one of the students, Hale, an American girl, to his big ploys by manipulating her into thinking he is releasing her from his hold. In return, he asks us to deliver an envelope to the Taliban police station. Once the guy completes the task, he reveals his true intention and sets off a bomb at the station. Thus, it becomes evident that despite his ransom demands, the ISIS leader actually has no intention of releasing his victims. Abir revealed the same to Badia when he proceeds with the next steps of his plan. He actually wants to marry Badia and marry her classmate off to his loyal soldiers, even though the main trains it because he wants strong children from strong women. It is likely a way to exact revenge upon the guards' parents, and Amir adds another twisted turn to his plans and offers Badia the illusion of choice in accepting his proposal. If the girl refuses, she will be killed and her friends will be enslaved by his armed men. So, really, there's no choice for Badia at all. Ultimately, Jack and her team remain the only hope for the young students. Why did Jake kill her commanding officer? Even after Jake and her team's plan continued to spiral out of control, they tried to regain their footing. Initially, after losing the location of the hostage, Jake's come up with another, infinitely more dangerous plan. Initially, Rocky and the other planned to break out of the Sheikh to deliver him to Amir and covertly infiltrate his lairs. While this would have been near impossible while the Sheikh was in prison, it becomes slightly more achievable once they get news that the authorities are transferring him to another location. Therefore, Jack and the other came up with a plan to intercept the convoy. Although they succeed in his plan, Rocky ends up getting left behind. This further cracks open the dysfunction brewing around the group. Rocky, Jane, and the others could not fully trust Jack due to her past. Thus, the aftermath of Rocky's dismiss leaves everyone vulnerable, which allows the Marine to open up to Jane. Years ago, when Jake and her team got caught by Amir and his men, they were kept in inhumane circumstances. Still, they preserves. However, near the end, Amir becomes even more malicious and blows up a harrowing plan to torture the group. Amir wanted Jack and her squad to kill their commanding officer by stoning him to death. When they refused, he killed a civilian woman and child as punishment. Jack knew that the burden of the civilian death would be too much on her squad, as would her co-murder. For the same reason, he picked up a heavy rock herself. Her co, who knew all about her childhood as a baseball pitcher, spotted her decision and smiled at her before turning his template to her a clear, wordless command. Thus Jake knew the stone and killed the co in one hit. Later, Amir tries to do is the same to Jack, the second soldier in command. Nonetheless, she ends up getting rescued before death and is forced to leave her comrades to their fate. Does Jake team save the girls, and how? Once Jake shares her past with Jane, it helps the latter understand the de facto leader of her group better. Even though the others are not privy to the information, Jane's inevitable trust in the Marine naturally put the others at ease. However, a different betrayal brews in the background as it turns out. Jack's Taliban contact has been a mole for Amir at all this time. Therefore, now that they have the Sheikh, she contacts Amir to share the group's location. Even so, Jack managed to come up with a last minute plan. She stuffs the traitor's phone in the bag of counterfeit money and leaves it at the barn for Amir to find along with the Sheikh. As such, Jack efficiently installs a tracker that will help her and her team locate Amir's new lair. On this part, Amir is in oblivious to the entire thing and takes the bait. Apparently, the reason he wanted the Sheikh to be released was so that he could kill for a previous betrayal. However, while he is engaged in marrying Padia and planning for Sheikh's death, Jack and her team infiltrate the underground caves where Amir's operation resides. Since all the women is in the base wear burqas, a garment that covers their faces, the soldiers efficiently disguise themselves and blend in with the surroundings. This helps them add traps and locate the prison holdings to enact the final steps of their plan. Eventually, Amir realizes that his base has been compromised, putting his guards on alert. Therefore, this initiates a battle between the soldiers and Amir men while Jack tries to get the hostage out without any harm. Badia, whose marriage to Amir was interrupted by the attack, also managed to slip away and reunite with her classmates. In the end, as the soldier helped the guards flee, not without a sacrifice or two, Jack confronts Amir is on one battle. Ultimately, Jack kills Amir brutally, slitting his throat and letting him choke on his own blood. Meanwhile, the rescue choppers arrive in the nick of time outside the caves and quickly take off with the hostage and the soldiers. However, Jack decided to take another route out in the truck with Malik, his Her departing decision to opt for the car instead of the chopper likely signifies her decision not immediately to return to the States. Perhaps she and Malik plan on continuing their hunt for groups similar to Amir's. Dirty Angels 2024, directed by Martin Campbell, starring Eva Green, Maria Bakalova, Jojo Two Gibbs, Ruby Rose, Christopher Bockhops, Rona Lee Shimon, and others. Synopsis: it centers on a group of female soldiers who disguise themselves as medics to rescue a group of teenagers caught between ISIS and the forces of the Taliban. When Eva Green's American military operative Jax is introduced to her team of fellow female soldiers in Dirty Angels, set to undergo an undercover rescue mission, she exclaimed that she doesn't care about anyone's name and only wants to know their function. This means that the other soldier, played by some recognizable name such as faces new to the action genre like Maria Bakalova and familiar one like Ruby Rose, are given the absolute worst treatment one could give a supporting character in an action film, reducing their character to whatever their special ability happens to be, which more amounts to the usual skill sets such as explosive and computer experts. More to the point, it makes one wonder that co-writer or director Martin Campbell's writing alongside Elisa Sullivan Hagee, Jonas McCord, and Jeannie Curtin fiction is for this film. Yes, it's a standard VOD patronized gender action flick, however, it seems to be aspiring to do something much harsher and darker about Afghanistan conflicts circa 2021 without knowing that it wants to say or what point it wants to make. That's also not surprising considering there does not seem to be anyone with experience or knowledge of the situation to actually craft a narrative with characters that amount to something more than Americans good, brown people bad. These are matters I don't even want to meet into just for writing about the film, so Martin Campbell is boldly misguided to think he has anything of substance to add to well trodden material. There also is not anything necessarily wrong with depicting functions such as ISIS as evil, but how their terror is depicted is handled dexterously and at odds with what also wants to be mindless fun. It's hard to be entertained when central aspects are taken grimly seriously and graphically portrayed as if a realistic portrait of some heinous action was another goal. Those two tones don't Moshe's not even competently staged third actor battles and explosion can compensate for that. The rest of the plot plays into the most overused of action tropes in the prologue disaster strike as Jake nearly escapes an ISIS kidnapping, although not without casualties, some of which she can be blamed for. Some time passes and she ends up back in the field on the previously mentioned rescue mission, where lo and behold, the nefarious villain pulling the strings happened to be the one who made her after a living hell. There is not much to Jack characters, although Eva Green is convincingly fires is putting forth committed facility, whether it to be sparring in a boxing ring pre-mission or running and gunning. Dirty Angel just also happened to be equally with no firm handle on what Martin Campbell intends to do within the Afghanistan setting and those turmoils. If the function was to make a dumb and shockingly violent action flick over the top, that's acceptable. Here it is upsetting that the horrors of war are portrayed through the lens of shock value and little characterization. The film is torn deep through and only finds the goal of entertaining action jargonism in its final 20 minutes. The previous 80 are mostly upsetting and not in the way Martin Campbell intended. The movie Dirty Angel It centers on a group of female soldiers who disguises themselves as medic to rescue a group of teenagers caught between ISIS and the forces of the Taliban. The movie is directed by Martin Campbell. The cast goes to Eva Green, Maria Baklova, Ruby Rose, Janica T. Gibbs, Rona Lee Shimon, Riza Barghiti. 2024, the United States movie original title is Dirty Angels and the running time is 104 minutes. Screenwriter are Alyssa Silverman, Martin Campbell, Alyssa Haggis, Jonas McCord, Jenny Contos. Cinematography by Davis Tattersall, producer Millennium Media and Noana Films Studios, Dreammaker Production. Dirty Angels 2024 movie review. Eva Green is great, but the movie misses the mark. The plot of the movie centers on the group of female soldiers who disguise themselves as medics to rescue a group of teenagers caught between ISIS and the forces of the Taliban. Martin Campbell is mostly known for being franchise Viagra for the 001 series, but he has been coughing away at action movies for decades. Outside of his Bond work, I have never really connected with any of his films, but I appreciate how he shoots action. And I am a sucker for creative re-team up, so it's nice to see him and Eva Green join forces again, especially with Green taking on a role that is so different from her usual choices. But sadly, near everything about Dirty Angel feels dated and uninspired. The film follows a group of female soldiers who are tasked with rescuing a group of kidnapped girls from ISIS. Tension in the area are at an all-time high with the Taliban and ISIS fighting for control. This makes the rescue efforts all the more difficult. There are scratches of Dirty Angel that really impress. The first 20 minutes where a bunch of schoolgirls are kidnapped by ISIS are riveting. There's a moment where girls are thrown off a roof that is so well shot that you really feel the impact of the moment when you don't stop and think along the geopolitical of it all. The story is intriguing enough, but the film can get hampered by trying to make a point while not realizing how tone deaf it actually is. Eva Green is absolutely fantastic as Jake, a tough soldier who we see captured at the beginning. She is tough as nails and works really well in the role. It's hard to believe this is the same woman who portrayed Vesper all those years ago. The films needed to be entirely focused on her and tell the story through her eyes. At least this would have given us some kind of perspective instead of this all sides on that we received. And this results in a very surface level experience that doesn't really bring anything new to the table. This is a team up movie without the actual characterization required to keep it interesting. She doesn't have a lot of screen time by May course really impresses. Her story could have easily carried an entire movie and she brings a strength to a role that really needs it. I was right when I saw Ruby Rose on the cast list, but she is properly utilized here with very limited dialogue. It's been interesting to see all the different roles Maria Baklova has taken since coming on the scene with Borat 2. She is very low-key here and blends in with the other characters. It's really only Green who gets a chance at any proper characterization. Anyone else could was swapped with another and that be little change to the story. The action is very old-fashioned with a very simple setup, explosion and gunfights. I will not lie, it's kind of charming if not a bit dated. There are some moments like the hand to hand combat with Evergreen where it gets a little interesting. but it happens with infrequency. Otherwise, this could have been fit in with the low budget action fare of the 2000. This was really highlighted why I hate CGI bullet hits the sheer lack of impact. They don't interact with the world around them properly and always seem very digital. Combine these with the lame character death that came out of nowhere and it makes for a very unsatisfying experience. Unfortunately, Dante Angel is more of a whimper than a bang. The story has a moment of intrigue but often falls into an absurdly morphic view of the world. The great performance from Green is not enough to get past the by the number section beats. I'll give them credit for not having any girl power moments and just treating the cast as they should like they are soldier because there's a very human story here at the core. It's just too bad and it's backed down by trying to be an action ensemble. Dirty Angel is in the theaters. For the 20 years, this country has had a particular interest in the Middle East and rightfully so. The Taliban has been under surveillance by military forces and species since long before the events of 9/11 occurred. Generally, any story about the part of the world depicted men regardless of whether they were in civilian clothing or uniform, haunting hostiles and taking them out on the way or another. Rarely have we seen women in roles they required them to take on the Taliban until now. This month, Lionsgate will distribute Dirty Angel for a limited theatrical release and video on demand beginning on December 13, 2024. Jack, played by Eva Green, and her men are living in cages, hostage of the rebels who have taken over the Middle East. However, when a butchered rescue mission ends with her unit being murdered as she flies away in a helicopter, sometime later she is asked to return to Afghanistan to rescue some diplomat's daughter who have been taken. While at school, terrorists came on campus and after shooting and killing several students, guards, and administrators, took the rest of the students to either sell or hold hostage for ransom and the release of a political ally being held by the military. Going into the country under the guise of being medical personnel, two men and six women, the trained fighters use their contact to find out where the guards are being held so they can set them free. However, when the first part of the plan goes awry, the two men are killed and one of the female soldiers is taken hostage and beheaded on live television. With time running out and discovering Jack has been betrayed by her contact, the remaining female soldiers must infiltrate the cave where the hostages are in order to liberate them. Green takes a different approach to the character of Jake than she did in her role in Casino Royale Vesper. She has an athletic build, clearly showing that she has been training for the role. She portrays the commander as cold, ruthless, and very pragmatic while showing little emotions. She speaks in a gruff tone, barking other as often as she can. However, underneath the stoic exterior, she hides a tender heart and secrets no one person should have to bear. Unfortunately, her take on the character comes across as stiff, dry, and uninteresting. The rest of the cast is unremarkable and unmemorable. While the script is lackluster at best, there seems to be a sense of realism in the way the Taliban and members of ISIS are depicted. They have always been portrayed as savages who are ruthless, and the killing in this movie does nothing to dispel that stereotype. From throwing teenage girls off the roof of a school building is brazenly shooting hostage in the back of their heads, the violence is unimaginable while accurately portraying terrorists, or at least what Americans have been told about them. Those scenes are practically difficult to watch. Dirty Angel wants to show strong female soldiers doing everything their male counterparts do, but honestly, The technical aspect and the script distract the viewer from what director Martin Campbell was trying to create. However, the biggest disappointment is Green. While she has been very good in past performance, she misses the mark here, and along with all the other missteps throughout his project, the overall experience is disheartening. I wanted to like the movie, but there are so many things stacked against it that I just could not. The cast is Evergreen, Edie, Screen, Ruby Rose, Maria Baklova, and movie is directed by Martin Campbell. Running time is 104 minutes, and the movie is distributed by Lionsgate. Dirty Angels Martin Campbell. Ever since the disaster that was Green Lantern, one of action cinema's surest old hand and biggest directors of the 90s has been toiling away making Saturday and occasionally lower budget films. Now, 81 years old, most recently, Martin Campbell has dabbled in recent Authority 2021's Memory, made an unusual Jackie Chan revenge movie, The Foreign, and gave viewers a truly third hitman romantic drama, The Prestige. Now he is back with the Women on a Mission movie, Dirty Angels, with reunites him with his Casino Royale star Evergreen, and like the rest of his output over the last decade or so, the project delivers mostly sordid journeyman work gossip with a few welcome idiosyncrasies. Green plays Army Ranger Jake, who he meet as sheet getting stoned by jihadis. A last minute helicopter rescue pulls her out, but the rest of her team doesn't make it. And she watches them get executed as she flies away to safety. She is so furious about the embezzlement that she even tried to have the pilot who saved her Count Martial. Suffices to say that Jack doesn't like leaving anyone behind, and that's precisely why she is now being chosen to lead an all-female unit undercover into enemy territory to team up with some Taliban forces and rescue a classroom full of young girls who's been kidnapped by ISIS. Jack is so very affirming new attachment that she doesn't even want to know her new colleague name. Instead, she prefers to regard them as their jobs like the shooter or the bomb or medic. It's a serviceable enough setup to clothline some action scene on, even if its political feel like something plonked out of a late season of 24, and Campbell delivers said action amicably with lots of bloody shoutouts and excellent exclusion that toss stuntman protesting into the air. All clearly expresses with a minimum of coverage and cutting. It's all executed well enough to make you a little nostalgic for the old ways. Even if the action sequences have a patient, measured pace that feels like a bit slow for a contemporary audience with a diet of CGI chaos, the violence on display is also quite brutal, especially when we reach the climax. With regard to the cast, there is not much to say since beyond Jack, the other women are think sketched and mostly there to offer expository dialogue. This is the Evergreen show. The actresses cast to do almost all of the lifting here, playing Jack as so closed off her natural ruthlessness is amplified to the point of cruelty. She is clearly having a blast with the role despite the utter seriousness of the entire proceedings, and it's yet another gender movie in which the performer with presence to spare proves to be most successful element. Dirty Angel is hardly a perfectly filmed, but it's Green even more than Campbell who makes the material works. The movie is directed by Martin Campbell, and movie main cast is Evergreen. Just because an action movie demands violence by the way of its basic purpose doesn't mean that every bit of violence is worthy showing. Dirty Angel make us consider that when during an early scene a pair of teenager girls are thrown from the roof of their school by terrorists, the act is supposed to be horrifying, obviously, but director Martin Campbell doesn't simply portray it as such. He has his camera flow there the girl from the roof to the ground only for it looks up and watches as the ground wheel falls to her death. It's a bit of visual technology that comes across as showing off and in the particular context